people couldn't be here today. So like I said, this webinar tonight is organized by VeTO, Verzet Tegen Oorlog, a coalition that formed last year to mobilize anti-war and anti-militarism actions. We also have Resist NATO, the campaign, international campaign, which is mobilizing for the NATO summit this June, and we are working together with them. And we also have the organizers of the demo that we're mobilizing for next week, Geen, ruimte, voor, defensie, which is a coalition that's based in Friesland, made up of collectives and organizations there. So we have quite a diverse range of coalitions which have different organizations that are all struggling for the same thing, against militarism and against war. And specifically today, we're going to be talking about military bases and military exercises, because next on Monday, the Ramstein Flag exercise begins. And the Ramstein Flag exercise is a NATO exercise. It used to happen under the Frisian flag, but because we can see our country, what am I saying? The Netherlands, this is not my country, going deeper and deeper into warmongering and taking up leadership in Europe for that agenda, with the former Prime Minister at the helm of NATO. It's really important for us here in the Netherlands to be mobilizing and organizing and connecting on an international level to fight the biggest threat to ourselves and our planet. Today we're going to have 4 speakers. First, we will have Oz from the Union of Cypriots and ILPS Europe, talking about military bases. We were then going to go on to Rhonda, who is a member of Resist US-led war movement in the US, and she's going to cover military exercises. Why do they do these military exercises? Because it's more than just war preparation. There's also a lot of war propaganda in that. And then we will have our comrades in Friesland to talk to us more about the work that they've been doing around the military bases. We have Dirk from Vlieg op en XR Friesland and Trinka from Friesland for Palestine, who are both members who have set up this coalition up north to fight against these so-called defense actions. And they're going to fill us in more on what's happening, what actions have already happened, and why they have started this kind of campaigning, and the kind of things that happen out of that airbase. So we will also have a questions and answers. So please note your questions. You can put them in the chat, write them down, and then we can have questions and answers and discussion after we hear from our speakers. And last of all, we'll do some more calls for mobilizations, because there's a lot of stuff that's happening in the lead up to this NATO summit that is happening in June. So with that said, I would just ask you to keep your mics on mute until we go to the Q&A and you're called on. And yes, I would like to hand over to Oz Karahan from the Union of Cypriots to talk to us about military bases.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. Yes, very good. On behalf of our organization, I would like to thank you for inviting us to speak in this crucial subject, first of all. I'm speaking to you today from Cyprus, a country that, despite its small size, hosts one of the highest concentration of the foreign military troops from multiple NATO members. Currently, parts of Cyprus remain under occupation by 2 NATO member states, while 3 other member countries also maintain a military presence. Basically, here, everywhere you turn, you see NATO. And it is important to emphasize that these bases do not only serve imperialist interests, but also pose a direct threat to the local communities, just as everywhere and just as they do in the Friesland. NATO is like an octopus, as we all know, suffocating world with its expanding military grip. But when many people think about NATO, they often imagine a blue-colored map covering Europe. This is because aside from United States, the owner of this shell company called NATO, most of its members are the European states. However, NATO's influence extends far beyond Europe, primarily due to the global presence of its member states and partnerships with the non-member countries. So we can break down NATO's influence in two channels. The first channel is, of course, its member states, which are right now 32 member states NATO has. And most of these are the historical colonial powers, as you know. The founding 12 founding members in 1949 were based on these countries, like the United States and even Netherlands, that that we are talking about Friesland, and we will mention the Netherlands colonial activities as well probably later. And that's why even today these countries have a control over these territories. Even though many of them has a flag independence, they are still under control of these colonial powers. So basically, as a result, NATO's military presence extends well beyond its official member states. And the second channel is the NATO's non-member partnerships. Because other than the 32-member alliance, there are more than 40 countries are part of these NATO's partnership programs. And these partnership programs has like cute names like Partnership for Peace, Mediterranean Dialogue, Istanbul Cooperation Initiative, and mainly in Balkans and Middle East, and also actually all around the world, including Central Asia, Pacific. Many countries are part of these programs, and they allow basically NATO's military presence and bases to be active in their lands. Basically these two channels manifest in military bases and facilities worldwide. And this also we can categorize this into four types. We can say the first one is, of course, and when we talk about the military bases of NATO, the first ones are the dedicated military bases and facilities of NATO. I mean, these are the bases that directly, or facilities that directly operated by the NATO, such as the Supreme Headquarters, Allied Powers of Europe, SHAPE as a short. This is in Mons and Belgium, and Allied Joint Force Command in Netherlands, in Brunsum. I don't know if I spell correctly the name of the city. And there are other also NATO command and control centers, like the famous one in Ramstein Air Base in Germany. And there are also specialized training and operation centers. All of these falls into this category, the dedicated NATO facilities. Of course, these facilities are mainly based in Europe, in the NATO member countries. And the second category of the military present bases of the NATO are due to the national military bases of NATO powers used for the NATO missions, basically. And today we are talking about Leeuwarden Air Base in Netherlands, and it also goes under this category. It's a national military base used for the NATO mission. And every NATO country basically have these kind of bases in their soil, from Turkey to Netherlands, from one side of Europe to the Middle East, basically. Generally, when we discuss about NATO, these are the things that comes to our mind. We know that Netherlands is part of NATO, Turkey is part of NATO, but there are other two categories that shows that NATO is not limited. NATO's military presence and bases are not limited to these countries. And the third category is the NATO's presence in the conflict zones via these partnership programs that I was mentioning. NATO has established military bases in the regions that have historically been targeted by imperialist and colonial powers. In the Middle East and Balkans are great example for that. And today, NATO maintains presence in countries like Bosnia and Kosovo, regions where it has played a direct role fostering instability. And additional to that, in the Middle East and Gulf, of course, again, the region that NATO plays, as always, direct role in fostering instability. NATO has many bases, such as one of them is Camp Arif Cihan in Kuwait, and there's another one, Al Darfa, and in United Arab Emirates. The number in Jordan, in Iraq, there are many camps and bases used by NATO in under these partnership programs, or the directly conflicts that they created in these regions due to them. And the fourth category, we can say that the existing semi-colonial territories, because we mentioned that many countries of NATO, many states in the NATO are once colonial power and always colonial power. Right now they are colonial power as well, and they still hold their power in certain important territories. If you're going to talk about Netherlands, for example, Netherlands' presence in Caribbean is under the name of Commander Netherlands Force in the Caribbean is one of the example for that. Or any other semi-colony example we can give, Philippines. Of course, Philippines is like an independent country, but with the agreements, military agreements, like the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement with the United States, between United States and the Philippines. Basically, it's a semi-colony serving for the United States interest, like many other countries. And also Cyprus, this small island in the Middle East, but strangely part of the European Union. And 5 NATO forces, Turkey, England, the United Kingdom, United States, France, and Greece, have a military power here. And 2 of them, which is Turkey, occupies half of the island, and Britain still controls 4%, almost 4% of the island for their military purposes, and spreading terror in the region. And mentioning all these countries also shows us that it is not a coincidence that these semi-colonial territories are often islands, because they function as NATO's unsinkable aircraft carriers and secure ports for its fleets. Because I will show a map later that how the main backbone, one of the backbone, let's say, of the NATO is the US fleets operates, and they need these secure ports and the unsinkable aircraft carriers for continue their operation. And yes, like the people in the Friesland who understands the harm of these NATO bases, both in their role in the global conflicts and their local impact. It is the same for the Cypriots. They are going under the occupation for decades, and they understand that these bases are the real reason of the terror in the region. And I will just talk about a little bit more about Cyprus, because it's connected with the story of the Friesland and the things that people in Friesland lives, and like any other places, because these military bases are the best secrets of NATO. Many people, when they think about the NATO, of course, they see that blue map. They remember that blue map, but they also, NATO countries deliberately trying to hide the existence of these bases. And in Cyprus, these bases are today, as many people still don't know, are the lifeline for the genocide in Palestine. and the lifeline for the attacks on the Yemen. It is happening today. And I will mention some of the news about that too. Right now, I want to share my screen with you to show some maps. Yes. Second. I hope you can see it. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. So this is a map of the US fleets. As you can see, there are 7 fleets that serves the NATO and the US interests in all over the world. The most famous ones are the 6th fleet and the 7th fleet, because they serve in the basically Europe, Mediterranean, in the Middle East, and the 7th fleet in the Pacific. And in the 6th fleet, as you can see, the area that Cyprus and Palestine and also the Netherlands is covered by the 6th fleet. So the bases, as I mentioned, in Europe and in these unsinkable aircraft carriers is vital for these fleets to operate. I would like to go to another page from our booklet, Liberate Cyprus, and showing you again the best secrets of the NATO. This is small island of Cyprus in a copper color. As you can see, it is next to Palestine, next to Syria, next to Lebanon, Egypt, Turkey. And these are just a few military bases that's situated on the island against the will of Cypriots. Cyprus is not part of the NATO. I have to underline that. But NATO, unfortunately, is part of Cyprus, and we are fighting against that. And I will also mention, before I end, since 2 years, we are, as an organization, publicly informing the world public, basically, about how these bases are used in the genocide of the Palestinians. And even today, this is a news from today, from Declassified UK. It's a website which talks about all these NATO operations in the region. This is a 27th March 2025. Britain sends over 500 spy flights to Gaza from, of course, these flights carried out from the RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus. So, and this is part of the, like every day. I mean, one day we wake up seeing that planes from our land flying to Yemen to bomb the Yemeni people. One day we see that spy flights go against our will. And this is all happening because of the NATO's actions and activities. And one last thing before I end, because this is something closer to because in Friesland, in Netherlands, we know that people of the region, in that region around these bases are not happy because it also affects their daily life. These military bases creates problems for the local communities. This is the map of Cyprus. The northern part is the occupied area that occupied by Turkey. The gray part is the UN controlled demilitarized zone, and these black parts are the British bases. As you can see, it cuts the part of the free areas. So in Cyprus, if we want to go from one city to another city, our even highways goes through these British areas. Even when we drive our car, a British police can give a ticket to us, and they do. So this is what the imperialism does. This is what NATO does. It divides, it occupies, it spreads terror. And before I end my speech, I would like to say that no more NATO bases and no more imperialist wars. We have to fight against all these, from Friesland to Cyprus. We have to stand against the militarization and wars. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, Oz. Yeah, really, really like very, very interesting for us to hear about something that we really don't hear about a lot. And I remember like the first time when you were telling me about how oh yes, Cyprus is like Ireland, where I'm from, like that it's the like still under British occupation. And I see there's a question from Chihiro. Is that booklet online? I would love if you could share with us the PDF. That is really interesting for us to read about. And yeah, very interesting to see how much of a geopolitical oh, it's in the chat now. Thank you so much. How much a role Cyprus plays in this, and I think it's very similar to like the Philippines in the way that the military bases of the U.S. are essential for the U.S. to feel like it can maintain its power in Asia Pacific and have a front against China. Like I think yes, I could go on. I'm not going to go on. We have a discussion part too. I am going to go to the next speaker, to Rhonda from Resist US-led War movement, based in, and she's based in California. And Rhonda is going to talk to us more about the campaigns that they've done as Resist US-led War movement against military exercises and what those military exercises are. So over to you, Rhonda.
Thank you, Yasmin. It's really an honor to be here with you all and to be one of the co-sponsors of this webinar. The campaign against NATO is tied to so many struggles against US-led war and militarism. As we know, NATO has been one of those arms that Oz even talked about. There's many tentacles to this monster of US led war and militarism in the world, and NATO has been one of those trusty arms of the US monster that's been out there helping to do the dirty work of US imperialism and its allies throughout the world. So very happy to be here with you. I will start to share my screen. I think Yasmin, you might need to make me a co-host so that I can do that.
Yeah, just a sec. Sorry.
Okay, great.
Yes, you should be able to. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, good. Now let me see if I can get it to be full screen. 1 second here. This is always the fun part of these webinars. Okay. Is it showing or is it just a black screen now?
No, we can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Resist US-led War movement's campaigns over the last year to end US and joint military exercises and end the glorification of war and militarism. As hopefully, you know, we can draw some lessons about this, or at least some inspiration as we build up against the exercises that are happening in the Netherlands next week, and as we build up the campaign to resist NATO. So just a little bit first about Resist US-led War movement. Let me know if the slides are not advancing. Resist US-led War movement is a global network of anti-war organizations and individuals. We're born in 2017 after a conference to resist about the escalating war, militarism, and neo-fascism, which was all on the rise even at that time in the world. And as we know now from the introduction to this webinar, that war and fascism are continuing to rise and even escalating since that time. From this conference, we declared a manifesto with two very general points of unity to try and bring together as many people as possible who could help to build this war against, or this movement against US-led war. So our first point of unity is pretty simple: resist US-led war and militarism. But it's not, just what we might think of as the big, wars, world wars, the hot conflicts, but also all of the things that go into preparing the ground for war. So that includes U.S. military troops, occupation, bases, war games, and exercises, which I'll talk about today. It means resisting U.S. and NATO, AFRICOM, CIA counterinsurgency operations, proxy wars, and other forms of covert intervention, fighting Zionism, apartheid, and systemic racism, and fighting against the U.S. military-industrial complex, including divestment from the hundreds of billions of dollars spent on war and militarization, and redirecting instead public funds toward people's needs, development, and infrastructure. And then on the flip side, we have our point of unity number 2 is what we're actually fighting for. How can we end the conditions that bring about war? It's by bringing about the conditions to build a just peace. So a peace through justice, social equity, solidarity amongst peoples, and this includes the recognition of the right of peoples to self-determination, economic and food sovereignty, and the self-defense of nations and oppressed peoples from reactionary aggression and violence. So that's a little bit about who we are. And I think it's, from the definition of who Resist is, it's almost a given that we would want to be involved in a campaign like Resist NATO. There we go. We launched 2 campaigns last year around military exercises and against these military air and water shows that really glorify militarism as part of what we consider our anti-militarism agenda. We had come up with an agenda for about 2 years. It was the last 2 years of what was then the Biden regime of the United States, trying to really respond to the need to build up a movement against the multifaceted war machine. And that from the global north, that we really needed to link the struggles and the movements of the people in the global north to the people on the ground resisting war and militarism, and those feeling the brunt of that in the global south. So we are really trying to do that with this anti-militarism agenda. These are just some photos of some of the campaigns we launched last year, and 2 of them were under the banner of ending U.S. and its joint military exercises throughout the world, and then also challenging the pro-military agenda, which includes these air and water shows that really glorify militarism and sell it to the public so that people will want to support war. I think one of the biggest examples of that, just to kind of concretize what we mean by that, if we look at Hollywood films that came out over the past year, 2 years, like Top Gun, things like that, that really glorify war and try to sell it as something exciting to the world, exciting to young people to try and recruit them into the military, and something that is supposed to bring peace to the world, which we know is a complete farce and total hypocrisy. So that's a little bit of how we viewed why it was important to launch these campaigns last year, part of our kind of comprehensive agenda to counter militarism and war. So 2 campaigns that I'll talk about. We had our Cancel RIMPAC campaign and Resist the Glorification of War and Militarism. So why the first one, Cancel RIMPAC? First of all, let's talk a little bit about military exercises. Why protest military exercises to begin with, or at least the military exercises of the US and its allies and NATO. So for Resist US-led war, we really see exercises as being integral to the system of imperialism, which depends on the exploitation and oppression of our people around the world, and really infringing on the sovereignty and self-determination, particularly of oppressed peoples and nations. Oz was just talking about the military bases in Cyprus, a prime example of what an affront to sovereignty, a violation of sovereignty can look like in the form of bases. Military exercises are the same thing, are done in places in the world where the US and its allies have their economic interests, their political interests, their military interests. And so we see them happening in places, that they've defined as their three fronts of war, the places where they have particular interests. For this discussion today, I think we will talk a lot about Europe and the front of war that has been kind of the prime vehicle through which the U.S. can implement this agenda against its rivals, and in particular in the rival of Russia in Europe. In the Pacific, we're talking about the U.S. buildup to war against China. And then, in the central area in the Middle East, North Africa, the U.S. front of war against what it has declared its main enemy, Iran. And so you have military exercises that are also taking place in and around these three fronts to project military power of the U.S. and its allies, to get the people ready, to promote the war among the people, or promote support for U.S. militarism among the people in those areas, and to also test out its equipment, practice its war drills, and even make more money for the military corporations and contractors that manufacture the planes, the bombs, all the war material for this war machine. So exercises are a huge part of how the U.S. And its allies can project power and get ready for war. So why did we protest the Rim of the Pacific exercises, also called RIMPAC? So this picture here is a picture of the U.S. Navy fleet, aircraft carriers and other kinds of boats, sailing off to participate in these exercises. But they weren't alone. They actually had 26 of their best friends and allies from around the world. These are flags of the different countries who have participated in the Rim of the Pacific exercises to go and play their war games in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Hawaii, which is and should be the sovereign land of the Hawaiian people, but has been turned into, Oz talked about the unsinkable aircraft carrier that Cyprus is. We can see that the U.S. considers Hawaii that as well in the Pacific. This was, and military exercise is so crucial to respond to and wage a campaign against not only the U.S., but also its allies that were participating in the exercises. Let's see here. The slide is not advancing. Here we go. Just to give you a glimpse as to what they do in these exercises, this is a promotional video by the U.S. Navy about what they do at RIMPAC. So let's just watch a little bit of it. I won't show the whole thing. It might make you throw up. Oops, sorry, I don't want to play it again. 1 second. I want to advance to the next slide. Okay, so that gives you a glimpse into how they portray RIMPAC and what they do. I mean, they really do. They blow up ships, what they call decommissioned ships. They send people out into the water and onto the land to conduct military drills. The people of Hawaii have been protesting against RIMPAC since it started back in the 1970s. And here, let me just try to bring the slides back. Sorry. 1 second here. Okay. Sorry about that. But yeah, let me, I'll bring it back. And while I'm doing that, let me just talk a little bit more about the exercises here. So yeah, I think that kind of in some ways that video says it all. The way they see the exercises as a game in a lot of ways, a game that they're playing with the land of the sovereign people of Hawaii, and doing it to advance their interests in trying to build up for war in the Pacific against, the adversary they view as their number one enemy, which is China. Our members based in Hawaii had been calling for, more international campaign against RIMPAC to support the organizing of the people that have been organizing against RIMPAC since the 1970s. And so we took it on as a campaign. We saw the importance of being in solidarity. And we started with uniting on why it was important to do so. So in designing the campaign, we met with organizers on the ground and our members to talk about why do it. So this slide here just talks about some of the main points that we came to. So 1, these exercises are the largest joint maritime war exercises in the world. Nearly a third of the U.S. Pacific Navy fleet participates in them and come from a place in the United States called San Diego, which is home to some of the largest U.S. naval bases in the world. The U.S. uses RIMPAC to strengthen the abilities of its allies to themselves wage war and aggression around the world. We knew also that the Zionist state of Israel was going to RIMPAC while carrying out its genocide against the Palestinian people, and that they would be there to practice their war making and to also, share and promote the weapons that they create, the surveillance equipment that they keep and that they make, and try to sell those to other states. We knew that at RIMPAC there's weapons testing and war making drills that are happening that destroy the environment, that endanger the people, and make immense profits for defense contractors and fossil fuel corporations. We also, were united in being against the way the people's tax dollars were being spent on war and occupation instead of basic housing, food, and employment and healthcare, which are dire needs of the people in Hawaii, the people of San Diego, in which, a bulk of the U.S. military involved in these war games were coming from. And then the U.S. military occupation of Hawaii is a complete violation of Native Hawaiian sovereignty and really turns Hawaii into, yes, this place where the U.S. can, in quotes here, develop future wars, or a place where future wars can be in development. And then finally, RIMPAC leads to environmental destruction, violence against women, and a gross neglect of the day-to-day needs of people all over the world. So From there, we agreed on some joint objectives. We formed a coalition of groups to take on the campaign, and really said, okay, with this campaign, we want to build and strengthen solidarity amongst anti-imperialist, anti-war, anti-militarism, women, peoples, and national movements. So trying to unite a really broad range of people and organizations to fight for sovereignty and independence, including for Hawaii and the Philippines. Build and strengthen the anti-war and anti-militarism movement globally. Conduct political education to raise awareness of the buildup to war in Asia and the role of RIMPAC in advancing imperialist interests. We wanted to disrupt pro-RIMPAC activities and the conduct of RIMPAC itself. We wanted to support calls to isolate Israel and expose how RIMPAC contributes to the genocidal war and occupation of Palestine. And we wanted to support the local demands of movements in RIMPAC countries who were also opposing their own government's participation in RIMPAC. And then finally, expose the role of U.S. bases and its impact on workers and peasant communities in the Philippines, knowing that the Philippines was one of those governments sending its Navy to participate in those exercises of RIMPAC. We particularly highlighted the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. The Indo-Pacific Command is one of the largest commands that the U.S. has out in the world, and it's in charge of using and integrating not only the Navy, as you would maybe think of the Indo-Pacific, but Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines to achieve national security objectives and protect the national interests of the U.S. So not of the people, because we know that this actually violates and jeopardizes the security of the people, and is definitely not in the interests of the people's economic interests, but for the imperialists and the weapons corporations who have the most to gain from the U.S. protecting the status quo. We also targeted the different states that sent their militaries to RIMPAC, and we targeted the transnational weapons corporations, which would be whose planes and ships and artillery would be used by these different militaries in the conduct of RIMPAC. We had some united calls and some demands that really focused on these different targets and could rally the people together for the campaign. So then what happened? What did we do in the course of the campaign? Education, public outreach. So I'm just going to show a few slides. We had a whole series exposing the corporations, or some of the corporations, which would be profiting from the RIMPAC exercises. So this one is on L3 Harris, the manufacturer of surveillance and weapons used by the U.S. military and by the U.S. government in also militarizing its borders. We had this series included also Northrop Grumman, even Hyundai in Korea, which has been developing many more of the different craft used by militaries around the world. We also conducted educational webinars, several of them, one on military exercises, some on how exercises violate sovereignty, and then just about RIMPAC itself. We created zines, which could be used by different groups to do outreach and talking to people about why they should be opposed to military exercises. The one on the left here was targeted to youth and students, and why youth and students oppose RIMPAC. And then the one on the right, for those who were really agitated about Israel and its genocide against the people of Palestine, and why there's a connection between RIMPAC and the Zionist war on Gaza. So this is just some examples of some of our educational materials that we handed out. And then what happened, what else happened in the course of the campaign. We conducted a really big educational summit that brought together over 550 people across the US to learn more about RIMPAC, learn more about military exercises, and even more importantly, learn about fights that people are taking up against military exercises and militarization in their homelands, from the US to, other parts of the world. These are just some photos from the workshops and the big summit that we had. And then we also had a mobilization actually, this picture doesn't show it. Here we go. A mobilization in March, which gathered also hundreds of people to protest the RIMPAC exercises. I think one of the major lessons in the campaign was the importance of connecting militarization and military exercises to the problems that people were facing on the ground. And so a big part of both the buildup and the actual summit and the mobilization was to talk about and expose the way the military is diverting funds that should be used toward people's needs for the benefit of the big corporations and U.S. military interests. And so there was a connection, to the homelessness in the area, the lack of education and health and safety services for people, and how those are being drained in order to support the U.S. war machine. I think I'm running out of time, so I won't show like the video from the mobilizations, but just want to also mention the other campaign in the, I think, 2 minutes that I have left here. Why protest the glorification of war and militarism? So that's the second campaign that we launched last year connected to this topic. And as we know, war machines kill, and they also destroy the climate. And the air and water shows that that take place throughout the United States. And it sounds like what's happening next week also there in Leeuwarden is you have the exercises, and then you have a big show where the planes and everything can, do tricks in the air and kind of market themselves as, this fun thing that families should come out and support. And we know that's not the case. And so in the US, there are dozens, literally dozens of these military air shows that happen throughout the year. And Resist US-led War movement worked with different organizations across the country to conduct actions to protest these war shows. Basically they're war shows, even if they call them, air shows and water shows. I just want to point out in the corner here, like who goes to these shows. In addition to the military, you also have major weapons suppliers like Boeing and Lockheed Martin, et cetera, that can, brag about their aircraft and try and, again, get more support for their killing machines that they're producing. And so, I'll just end by saying that the campaign that you're taking up and the action that folks are going to be taking up next week against the exercises and then the accompanying show next week are really important ways that we can expose the hypocrisy and bankruptcy of these military, exercises and shows, but also expose how they're impacting people both right there in the places where the exercises and shows are happening, and connect it to the really horrifying wars that are happening around the world. And when it's happening in your backyard, you have the perfect opportunity to really show to the world that there are people that oppose the agenda and that we aren't all pro and that we really can make a difference if more of us get out there and oppose the war machine. So with that, I just, we'll go ahead and end and can take more questions at the end of the webinar. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for that, Rhonda. I think it's really inspiring to see the work that you've been doing with Resist US-led war movement, especially against RIMPAC, which just you've illustrated as such a huge part of this apparatus of NATO, and how they keep their how these military exercises really keep, like, project power, and also the use of them to as an opportunity for profit for these weapons companies. Also makes me think of what we've been doing here as well, against the arms fair, and how we can connect the arms fair with these military exercises as well. And brings up the question of, like, who is profiting from the Ramstein Flag. I think that's a very interesting one for us to think about and to share and propagate with people here, because the people here have been, are like globally, the economy is terrible, and the inflation crisis is affecting everyone, and that we've been through 20 years of austerity here in the Netherlands, and now they're only increasing the military budget. And yeah, I think we will just go on to the next one. We're now going to go over to our comrades in Friesland, who are preparing for this mobilization against the Ramstein Flag, which begins on the 31st of March, which is Monday. It's running from the 31st of March to the 11th of April, I think. And that's all I'm going to say to you, because our next speaker, Dirk from Vlieg Op and Exor Friesland, is going to tell us more about the Ramstein Flag, about the actions that they have been doing in Friesland already, and also about what happens out of that base in Leeuwarden. What are the crimes that have been committed from that small corner of the Netherlands? Over to you, Dirk.
Yes, thank you so much. And I want to thank you all for your interest indeed in this small part of the Netherlands. It's all up in the north of the Netherlands. And I'm also happy to be a part of this campaign. Trinke is going to talk later a bit more about Ramstein Flag itself, what it is and what it does. I hope to share more about the background of what we are doing. The anti-war movement and also the anti-militarist movement in the Netherlands was really big during the Cold War, but now it's, I must say, tiny, but we're still there. So we also take Ramstein Flag as an opportunity to show the Netherlands that we're still here. And this actually started for us 3 years ago with Vlieg Op, the organization. And we started from the analysis our wealth in the neo-colonial and capitalist society we live in is actually based on violence. It's based on extraction, exploitation, and the expulsion or enslavement of indigenous people, of non-human animals, and also of ecosystems. So capitalism needs armed forces to be able to survive, to be able to exercise violence or to threaten to use violence. So from this analysis, we based Vlieg Op on anti-colonialism and also climate justice, because we see that the social crisis is also an ecological crisis. And this led to the realization that in our own living environment, there is an agent the airbase of Leeuwarden, that is the violent instrument to maintain capitalism and is therefore a cause of the planetary crisis in which we find ourselves at the moment. So there's already been talked about, but the pollution with CO2 from the military force worldwide is almost 6% of the total emissions, and the armies and armed productions are therefore a big threat to our survival. So what we did 3 years ago is do some actions around the airbase. And well, as I said, our society is based on violence, and NATO is a really violent organization, but this is not only the big violence we see in the world, but it's also the local violence we see in our neighborhood. So this means there is a lot of noise coming from this from our neighbor. It is. Actually, there's nowhere in the world an airbase that's close to a village or a big town like Leeuwarden. So you can imagine what that does if there's this F-35s every day flying around. And of course, there's also the pollution. We have the forever plastics that's in our waters because of the airbase. And they even have a practice area in our most precious nature area, which is the Waddenzee. And on the island there, they are dropping bombs to practice, and you can imagine what this does to this nature area. So there is this combination of the big violence worldwide, which happens from NATO, but also the local violence we experience. So this is why we wanted to connect with the people who live around the airbase, and that's why 3 years ago we organized a silence tour, a walk cycling tour around the airbase, and we had a discussion evening about militarism, but we also did a blockade of the main entrance of the airbase, and we used like concrete blocks, but also trees, and we had the slogan Geen bommen maar bomen, which means no bombs but trees. So to make people aware, there's a direct link between militarism and the military industrial complex and the climate catastrophe we are in at the moment. But what we also wanted to do is to show that we, as like the Netherlands or Western societies or the global North, are not always the good guys in the world. And this is still a really dominant idea in the Netherlands, that our military and the NATO are there to bring peace and security. And this is a really dominant idea still. So we wanted to show that this is really not the case, and that NATO is about something else, protecting capitalism and being this imperialistic force. So we also wanted to tell the people here in the Netherlands that what is happening from this airbase in Leeuwarden. And that is actually still in the news today, because there has just been a report about this, about what the Dutch Army Air Force did in the fight against ISIS in the city of Hawija in Iraq in 2015. Dutch F-16s had a bombardment on a local arms factory of ISIS in Hawija, but well, because of bad and careless preparations, they miscalculated the amount of ammunition that was in that factory. So when they did the bombardment, it was way bigger, the than they thought, and actually almost the whole city was bombarded by that. So there were more than 100 casualties and also hundreds of victims from that bombardment. But our government and also the military in the Netherlands denied that there were civilian casualties, and they kept on denying that for like a decade, until there's now a report that shows that there indeed were a lot of deadly casualties. And so for us, it's really important to show the people in the Netherlands that the people who are responsible for this deed are still working amongst us on this airbase. I mean, there has never been any responsibility shown, and there's no one that has been held accountable for this war crime in the Netherlands, and people are still thinking that we are the good guys, that we are there for our safety, that the airbase is there for our safety and for security. So next week, even a bigger exercise than the normal one, which is called Frisian Flag, but now we have Ramstein Flag. So I think Trinke can tell you more about this.
Hey, hello everyone. Yes, I am not any specialist on military things, but I tried to find some information about the Ramstein Flag. But first I would like to introduce our group, that's or the coalition group, that's Geen ruimte, voor defensie. It means no space for defense, so the army. And we formed it last year. There was, I mean, there have been for, I guess, a long time plans to expand the airbase, so the landing strip. They want to expand one of them, and houses need to be removed even, or people need to move from there. Since actually there in Leeuwarden different activist groups, and some of us thought that this is a topic that concerns all of us. Like Dirk explained, it's about climate, like we talked about before. I'm from organizing with Friesland for Palestine. It's about Palestine. It's about anti-imperialism in general. So all of us actually could combine forces on this topic, and we did. And I'm very happy that we did this. So we are people from Rood Leeuwarden, which is also, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Rood is in the Resist NATO coalition. So Vlieg Op and Friesland for Palestine and XR Friesland. We have protested at one of the information events that defensie organized to inform the people of the expansion plans for the airbase. That was last year, and the Minister of Defense visited to speech about safety and security, or no, what was it? Security and peace, something like that. So he also protested. And now we have the Ramstein Flag. So it's an air exercise that is bigger than the usual Frisian flag, and it involves, there will be 12 NATO countries joining, and 90 planes flying. And also one of the specific things that is that the Ramstein Flag has is that they will fly primarily in the evening and also at night, because they want to practice flying at night. Let me see what I wanted to say about it. Yeah, so it's from March 31st to April 11. That's 2 weeks of flying. They'll fly during the week. until 11 o'clock in the evening. And they will fly mainly over the North Sea and from the Wadden Islands that Dirk also mentioned, to Denmark, and also above the province of Friesland and Groningen, and also from the air bases in other countries. So not all of the planes will, opstijgen? They will take off from here, but they can also come from different countries. So, well, me and Dirk, we went to one of the villages and had heard a very interesting talk from one of the commanders of the army to explain why the Ramstein Flag was so important. So it's about this practicing flying at night, about the cooperation of the different countries, and when they are flying, the cooperation of the planes, the interoperability, apparently it's called. And also, like Rhonda mentioned, and I think that's very true, is that it's a propaganda thing. This is also what the commander mentioned, that it was very important for deterrence, so that the Russians would be very scared of us. And this is what we see also with the Frisian flag, that it gets a lot of publicity. There are plane fans, the spotters, that will, apparently they are already here, I heard. I don't know if Dirk also saw that, but I heard today that they're already there, and it's already busy, quite busy with the spotters next to the airbase. So 2 weeks of flying. We will protest in between these 2 weeks, so on the Saturday, to be practical, and hope that many people will come. They'll be on the Saturday, and it starts at 1, and there is a bus going from Amsterdam. It was already mentioned in the chat. We'll have many different speakers. So there's a speaker from VeTO, there's a speaker from the Revolutionary Socialist Party in the Netherlands. There is someone from the Nieuwe Vredesbeweging, Shihiro, who was also here just now, will speak. And we, of course, we ourselves also. We will march, so it will start in the city center, and we will march to the entrance of the airbase. Yeah, it's about 4 kilometers walk. Yeah, so the practical information a bit about this bus is that it leaves from Amsterdam Sloterdijk at 10, and it's 12 euros. And you don't have to walk back to the starting point if you of the march if you take this bus, because it will pick you up from the end point. I don't know if I'm so fast again, but I don't know. There are so many things said already. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer anything.
Thank you so much for all of your insights into the work that you've been doing for the last few years, and I think it's just so interesting to hear that this is what's happening, and to hear that, like, once again the Dutch government committed a scandal which they completely denied any responsibility for. It's so typical, and to see that these people, then like Mark Rutte is now heading NATO, they are just the perfect, they really are the perfect candidates to commit war crimes, because they're so good at getting away with them. It's really yeah, shocking. I'm going to pin all of the speakers now, and I'm going to open up the floor. Before we open up the floor, I just wanted to show you all one thing, which is the page that they have about the Ramstein flag becoming the Frisian flag becoming the Ramstein flag, and you can see. I'm going to translate it into English in a moment. But this means this means the most terrifying of NATO, if I'm not mistaken, right? Which is just incredible language for them to use, I really find. And I think it's really just, and in this really, I really see this Ramstein flag, like Frisian flag becoming Ramstein flag, is just another indication of the increased militarism that is happening in this country and which will affect us all. Today, our comrades in Rotterdam saw that in one of the libraries, there was this big recruitment going on to the military. And you can see this happening. They are targeting the poorer communities, which they have taken away all of the social services that this country was built upon in the post-war era, when we first were when part of like setting up NATO. I watched an interesting video earlier about, it was NATO propaganda that they first made in their first years of formation. At that time in 1955, the Netherlands gave 10% of its total budget, national budget, to defense. But at that time, like, yeah, like the propaganda of NATO is really something else, and it's really something for us to prepare for. And I just also, in a few minutes, I'm going to call on Leila, because she's also been coordinating some things for cultural workers to also organize and coordinate against NATO propaganda. But yes, let's open up the floor if people would like to, if people have any questions or would like to make any comments or additions, raise your hand and then I'll call on you, or unmute your mic and you can go. There was a lot of information there. Evie, please go ahead.
Hi, yes. Thank you so much for this webinar. I think it was really informative, and I think it's going to be great actions next week against this NATO aggression launched from the Netherlands. I just also wanted to share a small bit about the Philippines. It's been mentioned already, but also the Philippines struggle is fighting back against imperialism. So there's a lot of people in the Philippines resisting, and we're calling for actions on April 26th to support their struggle. So after the actions next week, if you want to be part of these global mobilizations that will be happening, that will be really good as well. I'll also send a link in the chat.
Thanks so much for that, Evie. And I know that the Filipino Solidarity Movement has been very busy here with the very special guest that the Netherlands is hosting, the former dictator, Rodrigo Duterte, who has now been taken to the ICC, which is wonderful news. It would be wonderful if the ICC would also carry out other actions against other dictators and murderers of their people. But of course, the ICC is best to trying leaders from the global south, and let's yes, it's great. So I think it's really great for people to get more involved with the Filipino movement, as it's now also the Netherlands has a whole other thing going on, which hopefully we can also connect more with the Palestine movement and everything. Yes, exactly. When will they bring Netanyahu to the ICC and all of his cronies? In fact, Biden can go there too, all of them. Any other questions or comments or calls to actions that people would like to give at this moment? If no one is rushing, I might ask Leila. Oh, Trinka, would you like to?
Yeah, there was one thing I forgot to talk about just now. It was a bit about, we went to today to have to join the peace protests, like this pacifist group, to see what they are up to and invite them for April 5. And I think it's quite interesting to talk with the people here in Friesland, so many people, they are really, I mean, they really believe the propaganda, right? So they're like, yeah, the Russians, and it's really needed, and oh, it's very nice that you think peace is good, but we need weapons and these kind of things. So, but I also feel that there's quite some positive response as well. So it's really interesting, and I'm quite optimistic. I'm very curious to see what the response will be to the protest on April 5. And I feel like things are changing quite quickly, but we don't know where it's going, but we will see. But yeah, it's still a challenge to like talk to people, and because they get very different information, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that makes me think of what Rhonda was saying was a key part of their campaign, was to connect it to the local issues that people are facing. And that's also something that we were trying to do in the run up to the arms fair, because we know that Rotterdam is one of the most marginalized, poor, it has the highest level of poverty in the Netherlands and the largest migrant community, and they are also the recruiting ground for the military, but also where a lot of they're trying to make a NATO hub also in Rotterdam. This port city has played such a crucial role in all of this for a long time. And I'm going to hand over it now to Chihiro, who has hand raised. Please go ahead.
Hi, just had a very simple question, but I was wondering, are there going to be flyers handed out like when we march? Are there some people that can do that kind of communication stuff?
Yes, there's, I mean, it's one of the tasks that people can sign up to do. We can use more people, so if you know that you will be there and you want to help hand out flyers, I'm not sure that we have new flyers exactly, so maybe they are still the ones about the expansion of the airbase.
I'm thinking about making some smaller ones.
Yes. Oh, okay. There's an idea of making something small, but I mean, you can bring your own if you like. And we hope you bring the VeTO stickers. Yeah, so we will have we will have stuff to hand out, I think. And hopefully people to do it.
Cool. Yeah, it's always nice to, I know I'm always in marches, but sometimes you're in marches and you don't even hear the chant well yourself. And when you're on the outside, you don't even hear it correctly either. And a flyer can be just that little bridge to start the rabbit hole of unpicking the issue.
Yeah, I think it's very important. I hope we can also think of some good, clear chants in Dutch. And we had the sign making event this week as well. So we hope that, people bring good signs that helps for the people in the streets to understand what we're doing. But the flyers also, yes, it's very good to have them to get people involved. And
And some chants in Fries.
Yes. Yeah, I still have to think about that, but
Nice.
yeah, sure. We did make the signs in Frisian as well. They're on the Instagram for those who would like to go have a look.
For anyone who doesn't, Frisian is its own specific. Is it a language or a dialect?
Yes, it's a minority language.
Yes. So
I mean, the difference between languages and dialects, it's not really. I mean, I appreciate all the dialects of the Dutch.
Yeah. Friesland. Yes, it is. Yes, it is an interesting. It is interesting that this base is in this place that has a different character in the Netherlands. I think that is an interesting thing to also think about. And I'm just thinking about this flyer. If you need any support on it, maybe we could also do some research about because money is a thing. Maybe we can think about, I don't know if you already have the information about how much Ramstein Flag is costing, because that's always something that people care about. their pockets, especially in times of
You mean
economic.
the Ramstein exercise, how much it costs?
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I
we
don't
can,
know if I have information about that, but
yeah. Well, maybe we can try and do some
I mean,
research.
there's 90 planes taking off. Now, well, maybe I think there will be maybe 40 daily or something. Yeah, it's expensive for sure.
Okay. Yeah, let's see if we can get any research on that. Oh, Carly says for air shows in our area, we looked into city budgets and records to find the costs. So that's maybe something we could try and do before printing that flyer. And then there's 2 more questions in the chat, which I will read out. How intensive and what kind of propaganda is the Department of Defense doing up there in Leeuwarden and Friesland? And how can we connect with the locals more and unite and link the airbase and our militarism to the local issues? Interesting question. Okay, so the first one, how intensive is the propaganda?
Hi, I'm Danny. I'm also
Danny.
with Geen, ruimte, voor, defensie. So I live next to the airbase, and I got this propaganda flyer in the mail.
Oh, it's in the mail.
Yeah, just everyone in the
Okay.
neighborhood gets this.
I thought you
everyone
found
in
it
the city.
somewhere.
Oh no.
Okay.
It was directed at me. And just the way that they shape this kind of stuff, like they have a smiling army guy, and he's like in charge, and he says like, "Dear neighbor," like, oh, we're like friends, we're like on good terms. And now it's right to laugh because obviously it's ridiculous. And they have like cute little like we have one large skyscraper in the city, which is visible from the whole province. So they have like cute little infographics about, oh, we're gonna fly at 1.7 kilometers, which is like 14 and a half of these towers. Like, oh, how cute. So one last thing about the propaganda, they have this graphic of when the takeoffs are, and they include all the morning hours to make it seem like, oh, well, we're not flying most of the time. But, obviously, they're going to fly in the afternoon and in the evening when it's the most annoying. They are going to fly a lot. So this is all just to try and we're not taking any suggestions. We're not going to actually do anything with the complaints. There's a call line that you can call if you have complaints. You can mail them and be like, oh, I don't like this. So they can put it right in the trash. This is all just like trying to manufacture like a little bit of consent and be like, oh, we're so sorry for all the noise. How much is being flown exactly? I believe, like Tinka said, it's like 40 flights a day in the evening between what would it be, like 5 and 7. They do most of it, and then they have another slot later at night up to midnight, and they take off and they come back. And apparently, and we don't know if this is true, apparently this will use up most of their allowance for causing noise. But which is being used as like a way of saying like, well, of course there's going to be a lot of noise now, but then for the rest of the year it's going to be quiet. But we can already kind of see the writing on the wall.
Well, they don't even want to admit that. I mean, when we were in Cornium, they didn't want to.
Right. So they're already being a little bit careful
just
to say that.
Repeating that they will stick to the rules.
Currently, the rules say that they wouldn't be able to fly the rest of the year, but we're not.
No, they were denying that these numbers that were in the newspaper were correct.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
I hope that answers the question a little bit about propaganda.
They did not understand the calculation. Dirk wants to say something, I think. Sorry.
Well, Carly and I've got Dirk. Yeah, I didn't see who put their hand up first, but let's go Carly and then we'll go Dirk.
Okay. I just wanted to comment. One tactic we had for fighting against the air shows here in Seattle was to release a survey and put up flyers in the neighborhoods that were going to be most affected by the noise. Maybe you already have this practice, but people hate these air shows that live there, that are affected by them, by the pollution, the sound. And even if they don't yet have the unity to fight against NATO and the military, it's that entry point, right, to think about it. So we ended up getting a couple hundred survey responses, which helped us build contacts in the neighborhoods that people were affected by. And artists helped make, I'm not sure if you can see it on this link, but some really beautiful propaganda that I'll try and forward here. But yeah, that was just one tactic because they have their propaganda out to every house, right? So it's important for us to get our propaganda out to expose. So yeah, just wanted to share that experience from our actions here.
Thanks, Carly. That sounds cool. I'm opening up the link now to have a look. And Dirk, please go ahead.
Yes, in response to that, obviously, yeah, I'm on. Obviously, we tried that, but the fact is that a lot of people who live close to the airbase go on holiday for the next 2 weeks because they just can't bear the sound, the noise. It's too much. So yeah, it's hard to connect then if they're not there actually. But there's also another problem is that it's quite a lot of small villages that's around the airbase, and so it's also the airbase is also really an economic factor. Friesland is also a poor area, and lots of people have indirect economic relations with the airbase companies, cleaning companies, whatever. So it's hard to criticize, and even in the small communities, there are also people who work on the airbase who are military, and yeah, it's then also hard to criticize, and because it's small villages, so you want to be friends with your neighbors, so it's hard to connect with them, but we try.
Yes, and the point made up by Francine, who I think is a cat. What about people with pets? I guess the dogs and cats will also be distressed from all the extra noise pollution, which I'm sure, like all of the animals and all of the animals, I'm sure you have quite some nature because there's nature, like as in little critters, which will be very bothered by that. And yeah, there's a lot of destruction that is caused by weapons of war and just testing them out in like where there's like civilian populations and just different habitats. I wanted to, there's also some banner making that will be happening in preparation for these for this mobilization on April 5th. There is there's one happening in Rotterdam. Lila, would you like to just say what that one is?
Yes, I don't know if everything's working. Yeah, I think there was already sign making and banner making. Was it yesterday or the day before? I think already in Leeuwarden. Trinke told me about this, and we're doing one in Rotterdam, hopefully to create certain kind of more like performative signs that we can use since quite a long walk from the protest march. I was quite inspired by the Geen Bowman. I don't, probably I pronounce both the same in like making some signs that open up. And as part of VeTO, we've been also focusing quite a lot on different like basically ways that cultural tactics can help in protest, either to kind of carry the point across with humor, but also sometimes to be extra annoying. At the moment, for example, there is also NATO, in preparation for the NATO summit, they are organizing a mural competition. So they have a call out for designers and artists to submit proposals. And we collaborated with different student unions from art schools to try to spam them, basically. I can send we made a collaborative post on Instagram and a call out on different group chats. I can share directly also the link of this place to submit the design. Actually, it's a very simple submission form. It doesn't require any information. So anything low effort, high impact would be appreciated. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the protest. And in general, I think something to add on what's happening also in Den Haag in general is that the municipality and a lot of the cultural institutions are really facilitating the NATO summit. They created this kind of roadmap to the summit with a music festival, the Hague street art organization that supports street art and hip hop culture is actually the jury for this mural competition. So basically something happened in the house. Our boycott is not a boycott. Our kind of tactics are a way also to call out these institutions to like not art wash militarization and genocide. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Leila. And yeah, this is, I believe, an international competition. So if you know any artists anywhere, I'm sure you all do, get them to, like, I'm sure if they're your comrades, they probably already made some prop that they could submit. Like, this is just about spamming them and making sure that they know that we're there at every step, everything that they do to try and normalize militarism and war. We're going to be there annoying them. Okay, I think that if there is no more questions or contributions, we will wrap up. Please, people, sign up for the buzz. Thanks again to Chihiro for organizing this buzz. If you aren't going by bus, go by train. You know, the NS, it functions fine. It's fine. And
or carpool, because the NS is freaking expensive as well. Like, if from Amsterdam if you're coming from Amsterdam, you're going by bus, but if you're going from anywhere else in the country, like, it can easily be over 60 euros. It's insane. So yeah, if you can go with 4 friends in a car that you can just have for a few hours, like these kind of pickup cars kind of thing.
Yeah, so make some good prop. I don't think there's a Flixbus that goes to Leeuwarden. I don't think there's enough demand for it. But yeah, if we know that we have some cars going and there are some cars to carpool, we will try and share information about that in either the signal chats or online, to be like, message us if you need a ride. It's really important for us to, especially those of us who are just in the Randstad, to get out of the Randstad and go to where there's actually something to really confront. And then this is, as we have said, like, all part of the campaign for this state is now doing for the NATO summit, to try and prop up support for NATO. And of course, we are going to be there before, like, the weekend before. We will be part of the counter summit that is being led by Resist NATO, and we will be joining the mobilization that will be on the 24th, on the Sunday, led by the NVB. And we are also mobilizing on the days of the summit itself. Details of that we will not talk about yet. They are yet to be decided. We know that the whole city is going to be on lockdown. That's why the police aren't coming, the riot police aren't coming to demonstrations now. They're all training for this. So we know that we will have to plan carefully and plan efficiently. But I want to go back to this message that Rick put in, because I really enjoyed to read this. I have to scroll back a little bit. Where is that message? Yes, following an international peace conference in Den Haag in 1999, over 250 of us were arrested at NATO headquarters in Belgium and were detained overnight in Brussels Central Jail for protesting US nukes in Europe and the ongoing 78-day US bombing of Yugoslavia. Let's do it again. And I love reading this. Like this anti-war movement is not something new. The US-led war has been the primary reason for like destruction on this planet since the post-World War II era, when they really took to the helm of leading imperialism in this world. And we can see that things have been changing, but this encourages me to see that we are here internationally organizing, to see that we have got people from the previous generation and a lot of young people too. And we're even breaking free of our usual things of like never leaving Amsterdam or Rotterdam or The Hague. So let's get to the Ramstein flag, mobilize against it, build our unities and build our strength together so that we can confront this big monster of NATO until victory. Oh wait, one more question. I was just finished. Does anyone know how many locals of Friesland have already joined? Let's end on that. Tringa or Dirk.
Yeah, let's join. I mean, we're these groups together, and yeah, I have no idea how many people will like attend the protest. I was putting up stickers the other day, like at night, and woman was saying like, "Oh, it's good work you are doing." And I was like, "Yeah, we also have an Instagram." She says, "Yeah, I know. I looked it up. Very good." So yeah, we'll see. I mean,
for the anti-militarism stuff, it feels in the small amount of time that we've done this, it feels easier to mobilize people than with Palestine. So it feels at least that like there are already some people who are in like the existing peace movement who are, you know, more interested in joining this than Palestine, for whatever that says about them.
I think the people that we talked to today from this peace Vredeswaken, they seemed like they already knew about it or talked about it, that we were having the protest.
At one of those events, or one of at the time that we protested the Minister of Defense when he came to Leeuwarden to do his speech, then I was holding a Palestine flag, and someone with a peace dove flag came to me and said like, well, you can't pick a side if you're for peace. He was like accusing me of like, oh, well, you need to condemn Hamas as well. And obviously I don't agree with that. So I have some disagreements with the people that might show up, but I think it's very important to take the movement that's already there and then put our message out there alongside and then battle it out.
Yeah. And I think
you do this. I was thinking like this. We broadened their like scope of like possibilities of what could be, what could be true. Okay,
battlefield of ideas we have to battle.
I think that that's also something that maybe like a good discussion to continue with also Resist US-led war movement, because they have also been, I think you guys also organize with very broad unities, so you have people with quite differing opinions and takes on things, but through actually organizing and through working with people, I mean, the goal is to bring them to more progressive views on more things, and I think this is the first stepping stone to doing that, and I'm really excited for that. And I think that, you know, you might have people spontaneously join the mobilization if they see this kind of action happening in Leeuwarden, and they see all these people who aren't there, like, and they see the cool signs that like fold up and open out. It could be something new for them that will inspire them to join. And I'm excited to see how it all goes. And with that, I am really going to close this webinar. Thank you all so much. Thank you to all our speakers, Oz, Ronder, Dirk, Trinka, and for the additions at the end, from Dan, right? And I will, yeah, thank you for the questions. And I'm really looking forward to continuing this anti-NATO campaign until June and after. Thanks, everyone.
I have one question, one small question. All the interesting links in the chat, can someone copy them before
Yeah, I will still have
share them somewhere?
Yeah, I'm gonna still have them on my
because I copied a few, but not everything.
I'll send them all through. Yes, thanks for all of the resources, folks. Okay, goodbye, everyone.